confirmed that all the outstanding evidence and the transcript documents had been supplied, for which the NDC was grateful. He then argued his case on sentence. Essentially, he relied on the points raised by Kadi and called for the maximum sentence. The NDC adjourned the proceedings without a date to allow for time to evaluate all the evidence. We repeat that this is the very first matter to serve before the NDC and indeed the disciplinary structures of the EFF. The EFF is the youngest political party in South Africa. Essentially, it is in its formative or infancy stage. In spite of this, it is also the third largest party represented in the national parliament and the second largest for official opposition in 2 of South Africa's 9 provinces. This means that it has to grow and mature very fast. The EFF obtained close to 1.2 million votes in the national elections alone, and another 1 million votes in the provincial ballots. It is therefore possible that it was voted for by more than 2 million people, either nationally or provincially or both. As this matter involves MPs in the National Assembly, we will henceforth refer only to the 1.2 national votes. The EFF is a lawfully and duly registered political party. In terms of the Electoral Act, one of the requirements for lawful registration is the submission of a party's constitution. This must be so that the IEC is satisfied that the rights and duties of members are properly defined and protected. Our system of parliamentary representation at both national and provincial levels, and to a lesser extent at local level, is based on proportional representation. This simply means that MPs are agents of their parties, as the citizens vote for parties rather than for individuals. Depending on its performance at the polls, each party deploys its best and most trusted members or supporters to represent it at the various parliaments, with the view that they will best represent the wishes and aspirations of its voters. The party then sets up structures in each legislature. Evidence was given about structures such as the whipper. In all this, the central principle is that the party and not the specific individual, that it is the party and not the specific individual which is the principal agent of the voter. The entire system is premised on the Constitution of the Republic, the applicable electoral laws, the rules and procedures of each house, as well as the internal rules and procedures of each party. This forms one composite system of rules which must all not be inconsistent with the Constitution of the Republic. The Constitution of the Republic makes provisions for a number of rights which are relevant to this discussion, including but not limited to freedom of association, political rights, citizenship, and freedom of expression. Bearing in mind that regulatory context, it is now appropriate to zoom into the rules and procedures which govern the conduct of members of the EFF itself. The central organizing principle of the EFF is to be found in clause 1.4 of its constitution under the heading, what is the EFF? Quote, the EFF is anti-capitalist, is anti-sexist, anti-imperialist in its world outlook, and is driven by sound democratic socialist values where the leadership is accountable to the membership which it serves and which elected it. And then it says, any South African citizen not limited to any worker, peasant, revolutionary element, unemployed, who has reached the age of 18 and who accepts the constitution of the EFF, joins a branch of the organization and works actively in it, carries out the organization's decisions, observes its discipline, and pays members' dues, may become a member of the EFF. The membership declaration, which is a prerequisite for membership, states that each member commits to abide by the principle of democratic centralism, which is that the individual is subordinate to the organization, the minority is subordinate to the majority, and the lower level is subordinate to the higher level, and decisions of the upper structures are binding on lower structures. Clause 5.2, dealing with the rights of members, states, quote, every member of the EFF shall have the right to participate in meetings and all other activities organized by the EFF unless decided otherwise by the constitutional structures of the EFF. Clause 6 of the EFF Constitution, I've already read before. Clause 7 of the EFF Constitution states that inside the EFF, members are expected to crush their differences, be faithful to the revolutionary ideas of the organization, through good and bad times, and through this process, look out for each other. And the emphasis there is on inside the EFF. And it also says unity is paramount, is a paramount principle of the EFF. The sowing of disunity within the ranks of the EFF and the oppressed will be severely dealt with. Unquote. As we are the National Disciplinary Committee of the EFF, our approach to this matter must of necessity be informed by the above constitutional context. So must the conduct of all those who have voluntarily chosen to become members of the EFF without exception and irrespective of so-called seniority at a specific point in time. After all, in a democratic organization, such seniority is also bestowed by the same members who adopt the Constitution. Seniority outside the ambit of the jurisdiction of the Constitution is therefore a contradiction in terms. It is self-evident that allegations made against the charged members, if proved and established, constitute offences of the most serious nature when viewed against the constitutional context applied above. However, the making of serious allegations and the proof thereof on a balance of probabilities are two different things. From its inception, the EFF saw it fit to outline quite elaborate procedures. To safeguard and checks and balances to protect the organization against indiscipline, but also to protect its members against unfairness, abuse of power, and the use of disciplinary procedures to settle political scores. This much is self-evident from any reading of the relevant documents. This not being a court of law, but an internal tribunal of a voluntary association, the issue of discipline must be approached from a holistic and purposive point of view, rather than by an overly technical interpretation of each word, comma, and full stop of the regulatory provision. Such an approach cannot, however, be used as an excuse to deviate from the clear and unambiguous text of those provisions. Neither can the offences of the conduct of members be viewed technically in a piecemeal fashion and out of its political context. The holistic approach to this applies to this matter. The EFF is a voluntary association involved in both parliamentary and extra-parliamentary politics, and not in sport or scientific research, etc. Context is everything. Having outlined the context and the approach we propose to adopt, we now proceed to deal with the offences for which the charged members have been found guilty, and we consider what sanctions would be appropriate.